What's going on, everyone? UFC 304, Leon Edwards versus Belal Muhammad is coming up this weekend, which should be an incredible card. We have 14 fights, and a lot of them are really good fights, and it's probably one of the cards of the year, to be honest. Even if you're not really a fan of England or the fighters from England, there are some really good matchups on this card. And yeah, I'm going to give you the predictions for the whole card. Before we begin, let's go over a recap of last week. So, as you can see there, for my predictions, I didn't do that well. I got 5 out of 11, which is not where we want to be, because at the year we're at like a 64% clip, which is pretty good. But last card we hit a few that we should have probably went the other way, but we hit a lot of underdogs as well. But if you look besides that, we absolutely killed our betting. We got every single straight or prop, every single one of them we hit. We also hit both our safety parlays, and I know the first one, the Tavares and Park fight, got removed, but even the other legs in that hit. And then the same game parlay for the Lemos and Jandaroba fight hit. We also hit a nibble in the Verna sub 1 or 2. So overall, our betting was fantastic, absolutely incredible. Just our predictions we needed to work on. And there was just a few obvious ones. I went through a lot of dogs. I think majority of my picks were dogs. And we hit some, like Ogden was a dog, Bruno Silva was a dog, Kurt Holobar was a dog. But, we should have gotten some obvious ones as well. And, that's just on me. But like I said, I made up for it for the bets, and hopefully you watch the betting video that I pop up later on in the week, which you should always check out. And I think without further ado, let's get on to the predictions for the card. So the first fight we have is Modestas Bukauskas versus Marcin Prachnio. And I said there was a lot of good fights in this card. I think this one's probably one of the few that isn't that good. We'll start off with Modestas. So he is a counter striker, and he's become more so as his careers went on, and especially since his return to the UFC, he's definitely taken on that counter style approach. He's a bit low volume, but he also has, when he throws, he has decent technique and decent power. He hurt people like Palga, but he also gets hurt. Palga hurt him as well. Jimmy Crute KO'd him in his first in the UFC, so he is a bit fragile. With Prachnio, he's more of a karate-based style, which he's got like a funky style because he's karate-based, but he doesn't throw in a karate, like he doesn't throw his boxing combinations in a karate style. He throws these really looping, weird shots, and it's more so his kicks that he relies on. He likes to just tap away with his kicks, nothing with like emphasis or power or anything like that. Just tap, tap, and very much so like a karate fight, a karate style point competition. He also is a bit, vulnerable and a bit fragile as well. He's been chinned 4 out of 7 of his losses, so it's quite a bit. And he has a huge concern, and that's his cardio. You saw it in the Clark fight, which was a really low volume fight, and he gassed out completely, and he nearly got finished by Clark, and in a fight that he was dominantly winning. So you do have that third round concern for him. Out of the two, I don't think anyone should be a favorite, merely because both aren't that good and both have a very tit-for-tat style, very low volume approach. I don't think anyone's going to separate from the other too much. If Modestas wrestled a bit more, I would be on him a lot more, but he doesn't really, and he's never really done that in the past. Now, I am going to pick Modestas, and it's based off one reason. I think he will win the third round at a very high clip. And what I mean by that is Prachnio, like I said, gasses out in the third round. And I know Modestas can go a steady 3 rounds. It's not like he ramps it up or anything like that, but he can go a steady 3 rounds. And I think out of the two, he definitely will win the third round if he gets there. And then out of the first two rounds, it's a coin flip, really. But I do think Modestas will probably land the harder shots of the two, whereas Prachnio will be landing those kicks and probably just trying to chew up the leg of Modestas. So yeah, give me Modestas. It's going to be a decision win, most likely, I think. But yeah, taken by KO decision at a very low confidence pick. Next up for UFC 304, we have Shauna Bannon versus Alice Ardelean, if you pronounce it correctly. And yeah, if you didn't know, Ardelean is a OnlyFans creator and quite a popular person on Instagram. She's got like over 500 or 600,000 followers, and she's got like a lot of following, not from martial arts, from her other side hustles, if you could say that. But that doesn't mean that Bannon is a lock here. It's actually very far from it. I think this is an extremely close fight because I just think both are rubbish. Anyone telling you that Shauna Bannon is a good fighter is kidding themselves and is lying to your face, because if you watch any of the tape, and they're all against low-level competition, extremely low-level competition, people saying Ardelean hasn't fought any good fighters. I think she's fought the better of the two. I think people like Weili Zhang and there was another girl that was a former UFC fighter that she fought in like the first fight of her professional career are way better than the fighters that Bannon's fought. I mean, both of them have just fought absolute cans. And I guess you can say for Bannon, she's a credentialed boxer. She had that boxing career before the UFC. But you saw in the Bruna Brasil fight, if she's coming up against a decent competition, she literally has no clue what she's doing. She literally threw nothing in that fight. She didn't know how to enter. She didn't know what was coming at her. And Bruna Brasil's not that good of a fighter either. And we'll get to that later. But yeah, Bannon's just not a good fighter. Whereas Ardelean, I think she's probably the better striker of the two. I'm being serious. From the fights I've seen, yes, I know they're against low-level competition. I'm not oblivious or anything like that. She actually throws volume and she throws heat in her punches, whereas Bannon will just like throw these pin and patter shots and just she can get taken down herself. I mean, I don't know. I really don't know in this fight. I guess you got to go off who the UFC want to win. And obviously it's going to be Shauna Bannon. She's got the looks. She's got the Irish credentials, you know, the Conor McGregor, SPG link. Yeah, probably the UFC wanted to win. Ardelean was short notice as well. I mean, she only got called up about 2 or 3 weeks ago, which is not the shortest possible time frame, but still much less than Shauna Bannon. And yeah, I think I'm just gonna have to pick Bannon at the lowest. If the bar's here, I'm picking just above it because I really don't think Bannon's good at all, and I just think Ardelean's probably as good as her. But I do see a world where Ardelean might slow down after the first round because she is very, you know, front loaded. She does come out blitzing, and maybe she gasses out. So yeah, give me Bannon. Give me her by decision. Just skip this fight. I'm just doing it for a pick's sake. That's it. Bannon. That's it. Decision. Next up for UFC 304, we have Sam Patterson taking on the returning Kiefer Crosbie, and you know, lucky for me, I got to watch Kiefer Crosbie against Kevin Ducey up in Sydney, and it was a pretty fun fight while it lasted. And we'll start off with Crosbie. He is a good boxer, and I definitely think he has the better boxing combinations of the two. You know, he had that stint in boxing after his stint in Bellator, and he does do good combinations with his boxing. He hunts the body and the head both simultaneously, and I think he has the faster combinations of the two. Whereas Patterson is, you know, a rangy, he's 6'3", he's a rangy striker, and he tends to stick at the end of the range and use like his jabs and his straight punches to keep that range. So I think Crosbie is, you know, it's pretty simple if you think about it. Crosbie is the better boxer in tight and in close, whereas Patterson's the better boxer from a distance. Now, for Crosbie, one weakness that is a major weakness is his ground game, and you've seen it multiple times. You saw it in the Georgie Karakhanyan fight, and you also saw it in the Kevin Ducey fight. When he goes to the ground, it's like he has no clue what he's doing. He just gave up his neck in that Ducey fight. Like, it was just strange. He just like planted both his hands on the canvas and didn't tuck in his chin. It was just really weird to see. And even in that Karakhanyan fight, he got submitted quite fast after getting taken to the ground. So yeah, that is a concern because Patterson, I feel like his best trait is his submission grappling. I don't think he's a better striker than he is grappler. I think where he shines is that grappling, and you saw that in his last fight as well. He was able to get his opponent down the ground and lock in that submission quite fast. Now, for Patterson, one major concern is his defensive striking. So he leaves his chin way up, and he's got that huge tall man's defense where he just leans back, chin's all the way back, and he can get hit. You know, that fight, the Amasov fight, I believe it was, he just got absolutely chinned. And it was a bit weird because it was like he got taken down in that sequence while getting hit. So I think what really knocked him out was his head hitting the back of the canvas. But still, he does... or is susceptible to getting hit in exchanges. That's why this fight is not a high confidence pick for Patterson, because I do think there is a realm where Crosbie can use his in-tight boxing and chin Patterson. However, I think Patterson realistically and in a vacuum will be able to just subdue Crosbie with his long range striking, and then one way or another get the fight to the ground. I don't know if that's like dropping Crosbie, if that's getting him to the cage and just like using his length to get on the back of Crosbie. But I feel like if he is smart, if he has that fight IQ, he'll be able to take it to the ground and do what he does best, and that's his submission grappling. I do think that's a major weakness in Crosbie's game, and you know, we've seen it in multiple fights. So yeah, give me Patterson, give me him by sub. I think fight doesn't go decision is a good bet here, but we'll talk about that in my best bets later during the week. If it's a good number, it might even be completely juiced. We'll see. But yeah, fight doesn't go to the distance. Patterson sub, or you know, potentially Crosbie KO, but I'll take Patterson at a medium confidence. Next up, we have Oban Elliot versus Preston Parsons, which should be a fun fight because Oban Elliot always brings the excitement to his fights, whether if it's against him or for him. really. And we'll get to that now. So what's he good at? He's a pressure fighter, and he's good at wrestling and striking within the first 2 rounds. He thrives in the chaos, and you saw it in his Contender Series fight, and you saw it against Val Woodburn in his debut on the UFC. However, I want to talk about that Val Woodburn fight. That is not a good look at all, because Val Woodburn is not a good fighter, and he was just sloppy as anything. And he was, he nearly gave up on that fight, in terms of he nearly let that slip. He got hurt by Val Woodburn, and in the first round, and even later in the fight, he was like hanging on for dear life because he runs out of gas. He can't keep up that pace for 3 rounds in a way that he runs out of gas. He'll keep on fighting, but he can't keep up in a technical or methodical way. He will just start fighting on instinct, and it's definitely a bad look, especially as he climbs up the ranks and fights these more difficult fighters who won't be as bad as Val Woodburn and won't capitalize on him absolutely gassing himself out. He also has some chin concerns. So like I said, Val Woodburn hurt him. The Brito fight on Contender Series hurt him multiple times, and like, if Brito had any urgency or any gas left, he would have finished Elliot against the cage there. That was a horrible look. So yeah, that's definitely a concern here. For Parsons, he is kind of like Elliot in terms of he's got those wrestling credentials, but he's much more methodical, and he won't just shoot and shoot again, and he'll actually use his 1-2 and his jab. And even in the Semmelsberger fight, I picked Parsons to beat Semmelsberger because Semmelsberger has shocking takedown defense, but I was surprised in the striking that he was able to use his jab and 1-2 and really bust up Semmelsberger. His face was completely bloodied because of Preston Parsons' sharp boxing. I think out of the two, Elliot has the better striking within the first round. However, as the fight goes on, I think Preston Parsons will be able to implement his jab and just be the more methodical fighter of the two. I do think Elliot has a chance to win this in the first round because we have seen Parsons finish before. But I think as the fight goes on, I definitely think Parsons is the better fighter. And like I said, he will be able to have that pace throughout the fight and not get lost in the chaos, really. Now, I know Preston Parsons, like I said, is a good wrestler, but he has control issues. He was able to get reversed by Semmelsberger. Trevin Giles was able to reverse him. And maybe Elliot would be able to reverse him. But in each of those fights, once he got reversed, he was able to get back up from the position and find his way on top from that. So it's a tough fight because, you can see Elliot having dominance in the first round and probably winning that at a high clip. But I can see Parsons being the one that stays there. I'm going to pick Parsons. It's going to be a low confidence pick because I just think he is the better overall rounded fighter in terms of fight IQ, in terms of cardio and all that. But I do see an avenue for Elliot. But give me Parsons. Give me him by... I don't think he finishes it. Give me him by decision. But it's at a low confidence, obviously. And yeah, it just should be a fun fight. And you don't have to bet on this one. Just have fun, watch it. And yeah, that about wraps it up. So give me Parsons' decision. Alright, next up for UFC 304, we have Mick Parkin taking on Lucasz Brzeski. And it was pretty cool to see Brzeski save his career against Walter Walker, which a lot of people were on, but I was on the Brzeski side, which I'm happy to say, because he was a huge underdog in that fight. And I guess we'll start off with Brzeski. So, he is a striker, okay? And he was a really good striker before the UFC, but I'll let you think about why he was a good fighter before the UFC, or a good striker. Alright, have you guessed? Well, it was because he was on steroids, and he actually got banned for a while because he was caught using steroids. And ever since he's been off them, you can see just in his body composition, really, he definitely has lost his athleticism and his striking credentials. Now, I picked him against Walker because Walker does not know how to strike at all, and his control is actually really bad in the wrestling, which is his only real asset. Brzeski was able to kind of just outwit him there. It was a very close fight, don't get me wrong. It wasn't like Brzeski blew him out of the water, but he was able to outwit him, out-cardio him, and just land a few more strikes on the feet. But I'm not saying he's a good striker because he really isn't. He's kind of just a volume striker, if that makes sense. He'll throw some shots, but they're not anything to like be wowed at or anything like that. What he lacks is he can be wrestled. So Walker was able to get him to the floor, but like I said, Walker does not have any control when he wrestles. But you saw it as well in the what fight was it? It was the Williams fight. He took him down and just dominated him from taking him to the floor. So yeah, I think that kind of ties into my prediction here, which I'll get to. So Mick Parkin, he is a undefeated fighter. He isn't the most athletic fighter, I don't think. He isn't the most gifted fighter, but he is good. And he mixes up the wrestling, the clinch, and the boxing in all his fights. You saw it in the Usman fight, which I don't know if you rate that Usman performance anymore after seeing him get kind of dominated by Patterson. Um, but yeah, still a win against Pogues as well, and against Machado. The both scrappy fights, but Parkin was able to use his clinch, use his wrestling, and just mix up all the arts. And in this fight, I'm at a high confidence for him because I think he'll just be able to do whatever he wants. If he's having a close affair with Brzeski on the feet, he'll clinch up and he'll probably try and take him to the ground. If he's not having a close affair, he'll just box him to a decision. So yeah, I like Parkin here. I like him at a very high confidence. I think he's a good parlay piece. I think you can play him however you want. And I think a submission's probably live here as well because we have seen Parkin, gets a few submissions on the floor. And yeah, so I don't think he's going to knock out Brzeski, but give me Parkin sub decision at a very high clip. I don't really need to talk more about this because a simple fight requires a simple breakdown, and I just think Parkin wins most ways. Yeah, I don't think Brzeski's going to chin him. The only way Brzeski wins this is if he out-volumes him on the feet, which I highly doubt. So yeah, Parkin, sub or decision. Next up, we have Caolan Loughrane versus Jake Hadley, which is a short notice fight for Jake Hadley as he stepped in on about 2 weeks notice or 1 week notice to fight Loughrane, which is good for him because, it is a UK card and hopefully he can show off in front of his home fans. We'll start off with Hadley. So he's had a bit of an up and down UFC career. For someone that's quite regarded as a high prospect, he has a good fundamental skill set. He has a beautiful boxing stance, and he uses this weird, unique boxing shell, which he uses like his elbows to really block the punches and be defensively responsible against his opponents. You saw his striking, and it was quite nice in like the Durden fight. You saw it in the Malcolm Gordon fight. Poor Malcolm Gordon. And he also is a jiu-jitsu practitioner as well. He saw him get Durden in some real trouble. You saw him with the ghillie, you saw him with the armbar, which I think anyone besides Durden probably would have tapped out to. And he was also able to hang on the ground of Nascimento, who is a very good jiu-jitsu practitioner. So he has a well-rounded skill set. What is his deficiency is definitely his takedown defense. He can be controlled on the floor a little bit. So Durden was able to take him down. Nascimento was able to take him down. And what I noticed as well is his third round is kind of his kryptonite. He always tends to lose that third round. Durden, it was a close fight. He loses the third round. Johnson, it was a close fight. He loses the third round. Nascimento wasn't really a close fight, but still he loses that third round. So it is a bit of kryptonite. I don't know if it's a cardio thing or if it's just a mental edge, but he can't really put that stamp on the fight. Now for Loughrane, he is a come forward brick of a human. So he will box and he will wrestle, and it's all with aggressiveness. So in the Pacheco fight, you really saw that his boxing was shown off. He hurt Pacheco a few times, and he mixed in the wrestling as well, which I think is his number one asset. I think you look at that Taylor Lapilus fight. Taylor Lapilus showed a very good defensive wrestling against Basharat, and Loughrane was able to take down Lapilus, and that was on short notice, I think, for Loughrane as well. So, Loughrane, he can take down fighters, and I think he will be able to take down Hadley. I think he'll be the stronger fighter out of the two. And although he's shorter, he is, like I said, a brick of a human. Now, one deficiency I think of his is that he has that block of a head, and he can get hit, and his defensive striking is not the best. But we haven't seen any fragility or anything like that to see in his past fights. So I don't think that will be too much of a concern in this fight. I just think this fight will come down to Loughrane being able to get those takedowns, being the forward-coming fighter, and just kind of like bullying Hadley, either against the cage, maybe even hurting Hadley in exchanges, because we have seen Hadley hurt before. But yeah, it is a tough fight. It's a low confidence pick because I do see skill for skill, Hadley is probably up there with Loughrane. I think actually it's even. If not, Hadley's a little bit more, but I think the forward coming of Loughrane, I think the non-short notice for him, I think, like I said, Hadley losing those third rounds, I think Loughrane will just be able to kind of just storm through Hadley and just win those close exchanges and bully him on the mat. So give me Loughrane, give me him by decision, but like I said, low confidence pick. Should be a fun fight, and like I said, there's 14 fights in this card. You don't need to bet or pick on every single one. Just sit back, watch this one, but give me Loughrane by decision. Next up, we have Meatball Molly McCann versus Bruna Brasil. And look, I know the odds for this fight. I know they are absolutely huge for McCann, but I kind of think they're justified, and I'll get to it. So let's talk about Bruna Brasil first. So Bruna Brasil, she is a technical striker, a technical kickboxer, and she likes it to be technical. So what I mean by that is I think she would be well suited to like a karate or taekwondo competition in the Olympics. She likes the clean fight, the tit-for-tat fight where she can throw off a few strikes that aren't really powerful or anything like that, but just score points. And that's how she wins her fights. And you know how I was talking about Bannon before, how I don't really think she's a good fighter at all. She somehow kept it close with Bruna Brasil, and that concerns me a lot because that was a very, very, very easy fight for Bruna Brasil to win, and she just didn't separate herself at all. She just threw a few strikes here or there, and they were just, you know, these low volume, just pitter patter, no power shots that kind of just wanted the fight by points. You know, like I said, she would really suit a taekwondo or karate competition. She can be taken down. You saw Loma Loughrane take her down. You saw Denise Gomes dominate her on the floor. And that is a concern here because I do think Molly McCann has advantages. So we'll go with Molly McCann now. She is a decent wrestler and grappler. You saw in the Barbita fight, you know, comeback fight, like her most previous one, she dominated in the wrestling and the grappling, and she also has powerful striking in the Goldie fight and in the Carolina fight, using those spinning elbows and those barrage of punches. She does put it on her opponents. She's the more aggressive fighter of the two, definitely 100%. I know that for a fact. Even though I don't think she's the more technical fighter of the two in the striking, I do think she's just going to bring it to Bruna Brasil, and that's where I think Molly McCann is justified. It's going to be a medium confidence pick because it is a women's women's MMA fight, so you can never be too sure on it. I just think Molly McCann has the aggressiveness, has the higher output, has the larger punching power, has the ground game. You know, we saw McCann struggle on her back on the ground, but that was against, you know, people like to have goes at Stoliarenko, but she is a good jiu-jitsu practitioner. And Blanchfield is an absolute jet and would destroy Bruna Brasil within a round. So you can't really hold that against her. So yeah, I just don't really see how Bruna Brasil wins this unless Molly McCann just rocks up not aggressive, which she's never done before. So I like McCann in this fight. I like her to win either by KO or submission probably. I actually think she has an avenue to finish Bruna Brasil because we've seen Bruna Brasil give up against Denise Gomes and kind of get dominated on the floor as well. So yeah, give me McCann by KO submission. It is a medium confidence pick because, like I said, I gotta figure this out. Women's MMA. But yeah, like I said, I don't need to waffle on anymore. Give me McCann, KO or submission. Next up, UFC 304, we have Nathaniel Wood taking on Daniel Pineda. And I'll just be quite frank, I'm picking Nathaniel Wood at a very, very, very high confidence here. Now we'll get to him. He is the better fighter literally everywhere in this fight. He has beautiful boxing. You've seen it in all his fights. He has these leg kicks. He absolutely destroyed Charles Rose's legs and like it was nearly a leg kick KO. His wrestling, he's got underrated wrestling, but it's not traditional ones where he's shooting a single double leg. He's got these beautiful Muay Thai trips. He took down Naimov, which Naimov is a very hard person to take down, and Jourdain he completely toyed with in the takedowns. Now, I understand Wood has chin concerns. He's been dropped by Philly. He got hurt by Naimov. He got KO'd by Dodson. But I think from Pineda, he will be able to avoid that. Now, I'll get to Pineda in a second. I'll keep him going with Wood. He also can be wrestled. So, and I'm talking about Wood here. He can be wrestled, but that was against Naimov, and I think Naimov is a 10 times better wrestler than Pineda. Now, we'll get to Pineda. He is a powerful fighter, and I think power is what describes him perfectly. He does everything with emphasis. If he's wrestling, he's trying to go full power mode, like trying to out muscle his opponents. Even in leg kicks, you saw in that Tucker Lux fight, he was swinging with the leg kicks, and I mean, any other person that is not Tucker Lux would have easily been able to counter him in those exchanges. It was quite weird to see a professional fighter just absolutely load up on leg kicks. And yeah, like I said, he's got those takedowns, but he tries to outmuscle his opponents rather than technically take him down. You saw it in the Caceres fights, you saw it in the Lutz fights. Now, a major downfall with Pineda is he has no striking defense and he has a very bad chin. You saw Philly just absolutely toy with him, and it was so unfortunate for Philly because he was destroying him, and then they got that no contest in the second round. Caceres was just toying with him really, and if Caceres had any emphasis on his striking, he probably would have finished him there. And then Swanson just destroyed him as well. He also gasses, and it's as soon as the second round hits, this man, like I said for the Brzeski fight, was it the Brzeski fight? Yeah, it was. He was a former PED user, and you can see the stark difference in contrast from him entering the UFC to him not being in the UFC. after his sentence, you could say, he definitely slows down and he's not as emphatic or high volume or can go 3 rounds as he used to be, and he gasses as soon as the second round hits. You've seen it in multiple fights. You saw it in the Philly fight. That's why I think the no contest happened. He was absolutely destroyed. The Castros fight, like I said, if Castros had any more emphasis, he would have finished him. I just think Wood has this covered everywhere, and I think, like I said, he has chin concerns, but Pineda loads up with everything. I just think Wood will be able to basically see everything that happens. I think he's going to play it slow at the start and then just pick it up as the fight goes on and just destroy Pineda. So I love Wood here. I know he's a huge price tag, but I definitely think he is probably one of the more locks of the card. I think he finishes Pineda. I think that's definitely a bet that I'm going to be placing Wood within like rounds 2 or 3. So yeah, I think you're really safe with Wood. Wood by KO submissions round 2 or 3, and that's all I'm going to go. Next up for UFC 304, we have Muhammad Mokaev taking on Manel Kape, and that's what I mean by this card having absolute bangers of fights. This is another incredible fight, and it's probably the hardest fight to predict on this card. So we'll get to it. So Muhammad Mokaev, if you haven't known or you don't know or you don't watch the UFC much, he is a wrestler, and that's what he is. Yes, he's got a few KOs in his record and whatnot, but he is a wrestler. You know, when he entered the UFC, he got that flying knee, I think it was, on Durden, and then shortly after submission on him. But really, you've seen in his tenure, he doesn't strike as well as he wrestles. And I think he's probably one of the better wrestlers in the UFC. He hits switches, singles, doubles, trips, just incredible wrestling. And what he likes to do is he likes to lay his opponents up and just rinse and repeat, wrestle them and bring them back down. It's what he likes to do, and it's maybe a flaw, which I'll get to in a second. I think what like summarizes Mokaev is his will to win. He will do anything to win the fight. You saw Andre Filio ripping his knee apart, absolutely tore the ligaments in his knee, and he still came back in the 3rd round and got that submission on Filio. I mean, the Elliot comeback, he was down on the judges' scorecards, got the submission victory in the 3rd round to keep his undefeated record. And in the Perez fight, you know, he came in that sick. I think he had staph or something, or a bug, a tummy bug or something. But he came back and, or didn't come back. He just still wanted to win, and he won that fight by just out wrestling a very good defensive wrestler in Perez. Now, what I mentioned before is he likes to let his opponents get back up. I don't know if he likes to or if his control is just bad. But either way, it is a bit of concern because he can't keep he doesn't keep his opponents on the floor, and that gives them opportunities to get back up and land damage on him. Because like I said, he's not that good of a striker, and definitely in this fight, I think Manel Kape, or not think, I know Manel Kape is the better striker of the two. Now for Manel Kape, he's a powerful kickboxer. He's got so many KOs in his record. And you saw it in that DeSantos fight. That was an absolute war against another very good striker. And he just threw together the better combinations, the more powerful strikes, dropped DeSantos, and he's just shown that in his UFC tenure to have, you know, KO power. Against Zhalgas Zhumagulov, he got that KO, which no one really KOs Zhalgas. So he is a very, very good striker. And he's got that cardio as well, you know, 3rd round, he doesn't tire out. He's not like some of these traditional strikers, which their output and their power drops off. He the same from round 1 to round 3. And yeah, I think this, like I said, this fight is the hardest or most difficult fight to predict on the whole card, because you really don't know. Anyone telling you that, oh, Kape is a sure lock or Mokaev is a sure, no, they're bullshitting you. And yeah, maybe someone does look like a minus 500 favorite in this fight, but that doesn't mean you should have confidence in the prediction in either way, because you just don't know what's going to happen. Who do I pick? I really don't know. I'm going to pick Mokaev. I just think he has that will to win, and I just think he's shown it. We've seen Kape being taken down before. We saw him get controlled by Dvorak, by Nicolau. And I just think Mokaev is just going to stick to him like glue and just not let him rest. And if he doesn't let him rest and doesn't let him get off on the feet, then I just think Mokaev's going to rack up that control time. He even might get a submission because he is a very good jiu-jitsu practitioner. I just think it's meant to be. I think this man's undefeated. He's undefeated in his amateur record, undefeated in his professional record. Give me Mokaev by submission or decision at an extremely, extremely, extremely low confidence. Please don't get it twisted. Don't get it wrong. I am not high on Mokaev at all in this fight. I am going to take him. So give me Mokaev, submission or decision. Next up, we have Arnold Allen taking on Giga Chikadze, and I think this fight is like a make it or break it for Chikadze, because he is 35 years old, and if he really wants to get that title or make a run in this division, he probably has to get this win now. Otherwise, it's sayonara. So we'll start off with Chikadze, and we all know what he is. He is a prolific and a very good kickboxer. He's got the classic. He's got a kick name after him. It's called the Giga kick. It's like a switch body kick that he lands on a lot of opponents, and it's what he hurts Cub Swanson with and KO'd him with. He also, he has like wins that are really impressive to me. He out leg kicked Edson Barboza, who is known for his leg kicks, and that was seriously his coming out party. That's what put him on the map. That's what people thought he would win the title with that performance, and he really showed in that fight that he has next level striking. He also has beautiful counters. I mean, in that Caceres fight, that comeback fight after being away for like 2 years or something like that, he showed that he still has it in terms of he is able to see the strikes coming at him and fire back. Now, I wasn't exactly impressed in that Caceres fight. I mean, I do think Caceres is a good fighter, but I don't think it's at the level of these top of the division fighters. And it was a very, very close fight. I mean, Caceres probably won that round one, and Chikadze was able to get his reads and maybe get off that ring rust and take over the later 2 rounds. Now, what I've looked at this fight is, has Arnold Allen taken anyone down in the past couple of fights? And I was a bit disappointed. Because one weakness of Chikadze, and we've seen it in his UFC career, is his takedown defense. Qatar was able to bully him on the ground, and Calvin Qatar is not a wrestler. And Brandon Davis, if you look back all the way back then, absolutely dominated Chikadze on the ground. And, it's definitely probably still a weakness for him because he is at that age where he's not improving that much. He's 35 and he's at a very low weight class, so it's not like he has that much longevity. Now, like I was saying, I was looking back at Allen. Does he wrestle? And you have to look all the way back to the Sadiq Yusuff fight to actually see him shoot a takedown. And I know Sadiq Yusuff is a very good wrestler, but he wasn't able to get that many takedowns on Sadiq Yusuff. And it was more so when he hurt Sadiq Yusuff that he was able to secure positions on the floor. Now, Arnold Allen, it's not like he's not good on the feet. He is a very good boxer, and he had a very close fight with Max Holloway in which he was probably landing the better, more powerful shots, but Max Holloway was just doing what Max Holloway does and landing the more volume and kind of busting him up on the feet. He isn't the highest volume striker, but he does like to do these blitzes. And you saw that blitz against Dan Hooker where he knocked him out. And he kind of went like just nuts on him and just put him away with this huge barrage. Against Calvin Qatar, he probably won that first round, and he showed that he has good striking and good boxing. Now, he can be a bit sloppy, and he has this real weird stance. It's like a hunch stance. And I do think the body kicks will probably be open for Chikadze there. But I think Allen's just overall the better fighter, and this is another low confidence pick because I'm just not sure. I don't think Allen can separate himself that much from Chikadze, especially if it's on the feet and Allen decides not to clinch or wrestle. But something tells me that Allen will do that. He will try and show his good jiu-jitsu and his good wrestling and clinch and just stop Chikadze where he is good and where his biggest weakness is. So yeah, I just think Allen has obviously the better credentials in the wrestling and the grappling. And if he was able to do stuff like that to Sadiq Yusuff, I think he's easily going to be able to, if he does, I should say that, I should preface that, if he does decide to do that, he should have a lot of success there. So yeah, it's a low confidence pick. I'm not super high on either fighter winning this fight, but I am going to take Allen. I'm going to take him by submission or decision. And yeah, I think that's all I can really say. You can't really be too sure on either fighter here. So give me Allen, submission, decision, and that's it. Next up, an absolute banger of a fight, another one. We got Christian Leroy Duncan versus Gregory Rodriguez, and whenever you're watching a Gregory Rodriguez fight, you know it's going to be fun. So we'll start off with him. So I think he looked career best, and I think anyone can say that, career best against Tavares in his last fight. He threw these absolute bombs, and I don't understand how this man is 30 years old, because he's just a scary looking fella. But yeah, he just threw these absolute bombs on Tavares, and we know Tavares has a chin and he's normally durable, but it was just too much by the third round, and he was just hammering. And I thought surely he slows down by the third round, but no, kept him going, and he just destroyed and butchered and battered Tavares, and it was really scary to see his power. But he is traditionally and historically a better grappler than striker. And I think if he does that in this fight, he will have a sleuth of success. However, he doesn't really do that. I mean, the last fight he did it was against Dennis Chulin, where he mixed in the grappling. And, he did get Tavares down, which is something to look at, because Tavares, like I said, he has historically good takedown defense as well. And he got Tavares down at the end of the rounds. But I think if he goes with that game plan, he will tire himself out more so than striking. Now, for Rodriguez, a major red flag for him is he gets hurt or has been KO'd in many fights. Jordan Williams KO'd him. Jun Young Park was a few more combinations away from putting him away and KOing him. And Jun Young Park hurts nobody, by the way. Marquez stumbled him and hurt him. Chidi knocked him down and gave him like the worst cut in UFC history. Ferreira KO'd him stiff. I mean, this man has chin concerns and it is going to be something to watch out for in this fight because Christian Leroy Duncan is a beautiful striker, and I think he's probably the better striker of the two. He mixes in all the limbs, so he mixes in the elbows, the knees, the just the straight shots as well, and the kicks. Against Jens Caolan, he was throwing these beautiful elbows, and against Ribeiro, he was doing this thing where he was grabbing the guard of Ribeiro while he was shelling up and just firing off these shots, which made Ribeiro basically defenseless because he had one hand grabbed and the other hand was getting pummeled by Duncan's elbows and barrage of strikes. Now, there is a huge flag in this one for Duncan, and it is the Petrosian fight. That was a weird anomaly fight that he was just doing some weird shit and I don't know what the hell was happening. And he got taken down and controlled by Petrosian, and Petrosian's a kickboxer that has no takedowns or no grappling himself. He also got taken down by Jati Milan in Cage Warriors a couple of years ago, so maybe that was maybe he's improved that, but still that Petrosian fight was definitely something to concern about. I do think if Rodriguez, like I said, uses the grappling, he will have a lot of success against Duncan. But I don't know if he does that, and I said that if he does that, I think it would probably tire him out more than what his striking does. I think on the feet, I'm going to give it to Duncan. I think he has the better chin. He's never been knocked out before. I haven't really seen him stumbled either. So he definitely has a better chin of the two. And I think he has the more dynamic striking. I think Rodriguez is definitely a boxer, whereas Duncan can throw the elbows, throw the kicks, and the straight shots. I am going to pick Duncan here, and I think it's based on two things. Like I said, I don't think Rodriguez, we can't rely on him to wrestle or grapple, and we know that he has huge chin concerns, whereas Duncan, I know, probably can take a shot here or two, and if he fires back as a counter, I think he's going to probably drop or KO Rodriguez there. So I like Duncan here in terms of a low confidence pick. It's not like going to be a medium, but I just like him in that realm of predictability. And yeah, it's definitely a volatile fight because it really depends on what Rodriguez does here. So yeah, give me Duncan, give me him by KO. If it stays on the feet, I definitely think it gets KO. But if it gets to the ground, I do think he probably gets submitted. But I like Duncan here. Fight doesn't go the distance, it's probably a given. And yeah, Duncan KO. That's it. Next up, we have another good fight. We've got Bobby Green taking on Paddy Pimblett. And we'll start off by saying this, and I just want to ask you guys a question. Where have you been truly impressed by Paddy Pimblett? In which fight, should I say, in the UFC? Not Cage Warriors or anything like that. In the UFC, what fight have you been truly impressed? Because I can't really pinpoint one. I mean, the Jared Gordon fight, probably a robbery. The Tony Ferguson fight, absolutely atrocious, and I want to get to that a bit later. Luigi Vendramini fight, I think he got dropped in that fight and then found his way back with the barrage of strikes. I mean, nowhere in the UFC. I mean, Jordan Levitt probably, yeah. But how good Jordan Levitt? Not at Bobby Green's level. So yeah, there's maybe one fight here or there. But that's what I want to point out. How can you be confident in Paddy Pimblett to win this fight? We'll start off with what he's good at. So he has powerful striking. I can agree that he does have some hammers in his fists. He knocked out Vendramini. He hurt Tony, but who hasn't hurt Tony recently? I mean, poor Tony, my favorite fighter ever. But yeah, who hasn't hurt Tony? I think a lot of people have. But he's probably his best skill set is his jiu-jitsu. But we've seen in the UFC, if he can't get it to the floor, he isn't able to really use it. I mean, the Jordan Levitt fight, yes, he showed it off in that fight. But his takedowns aren't the best. You saw in the Gordon fight, when he tried to get those takedowns, he wasn't able to, especially against the cage. And in the Tony fight, like I said, that was horrible look. Because Tony Ferguson's way past his prime. And basically, if Pimblett wasn't a bigger man and Tony wasn't 39 years old and like had no knees and no athleticism anymore, he would have gotten finished in the third round. He was absolutely dead gassed by the second round, and he was struggling with Tony Ferguson on the feet. I mean, this man is a very sloppy striker and very defensively irresponsible. And I think that spells trouble against Bobby Green, because Bobby Green is a very good boxer. He absolutely put a beat down on Jim Miller, and Jim Miller was on a career resurgence. Even though he's old, you know, Miller was really shining. in the Drew Dober fight, he was putting on Drew Dober, absolutely piecing him up until he got knocked out against the cage, which, you know, is a concern for Bobby Green. I will say that his chin is a concern. You know, the Turner fight was horrific to watch him get absolutely slaughtered on the ground after he had been KO'd. Tony Ferguson flash dropped him. I don't know if it was a drop or a slip, but yeah. And then, you know, like I said, Drew Dober put him out cold. So he does have those chin concerns, but in other fights, he is just a puzzle that people can't figure out. And I find it hard to believe that there are some fighters, including Paddy Pimblett, that are going to be able to figure out Bobby Green on the feet. So in this fight, I think Green has the stand-up advantage by far. You know, Paddy Pimblett probably can hurt Bobby Green. I highly doubt it, because I just think Pimblett is too sloppy to catch Green. I don't think he's fast enough in the striking, and I think Green will just be able to see all the shots coming from Pimblett. Now we go to the grappling and the defensive wrestling of Bobby Green, and I go back to the Moises fight and the Islam fight. Yes, Islam was able to take him down, but Islam is Islam, okay? Please don't even compare Pimblett's wrestling or grappling to Islam. Then we go to the Moises fight. Do you really think Thiago Moises is on the same level as Pimblett in terms of the wrestling? I think Moises clears Pimblett levels. I mean, I don't think Pimblett is anywhere near Moises' grappling and wrestling. So do you really think Pimblett's going to be able to take down Green? I don't know. I don't think so. So from that, I just think it's going to be a stand-up fight. And I think Green is just going to be able to piece up Pimblett. I'm pretty high confidence on... actually, no. Okay, I'll say medium confidence because of the chin concern. But I'm at a medium confidence for Green. And I didn't think I'd be saying this before I started the tape. But yeah, I just don't see where Pimblett wins this. Can he land a shot on Green? Yes. But in a stand-up fight, is he going to be better than Green? Absolutely not. Green's by far the better boxer. And then in the wrestling and grappling, do you think Pimblett's going to be able to get it there? Probably not. So where are you going to think that Pimblett wins this besides a flash KO? I mean, I could be wrong. You know, it's a fight. It's a fight at the end of the day. But I am at a medium confidence in Green. And I'll be happy to hear in the comments, please. Like, don't be rude about it, but just tell me why you think Pimblett would win this fight if you do. But yeah, I'm going to take Green here. I'm going to take him by a clean decision victory, 30-27. And that's about it. Green decision. Next up, we've got the co-main event, sorry, for UFC 304. We got Tom Aspinall versus Curtis Blades, which should be for the title, really. I mean, I don't really believe John Jones is the champion. He's been too inactive, and you know, he just got in trouble again. And personal, I don't know. It's not about John Jones, all right? It's about Tom Aspinall and Curtis Blades. So, what do I think about Tom Aspinall? I think he's the most well-rounded, best heavyweight division fighter in the division, and it's not even close. He's got beautiful striking. It's fast, it's crisp, it's powerful, it's technical. He's got good jiu-jitsu as well. You saw it in the Volkov fight. He just got that straight arm lock straight away in the first round. He came up as a BJJ fighter. He was that before he was a boxer or stand-up fighter, and he's got the training in with the Furies. He's just everywhere good. Now, what concerns me about Aspinall is he has never been in the third round, and I don't know if many people know that, but he has never been in the third round, and this is a 5-round main event. It concerns me because we just don't know his cardio. We don't know how he's going to handle going into the third, the fourth, the fifth round if he gets there. And he has never really had to deal with the wrestling of Blades, or of someone like Blades' credential. I mean, when has he fought a wrestler like him? Well, when he hasn't really. He's kind of knocked him out before it's even gotten to that stage, or submitted them before it got to that stage. So there's a few unknowns for Aspinall. For Blades, you know, he is a wrestler, but he's trying to fall in love with his hands. And what I mean by that is, you know, in the last fight he has proactively wrestled, it's the Rosenstrike fight, and that was like 3 years ago. So it's very concerning because I don't think he should strike with Aspinall. People are saying, oh, he was having success against Aspinall in that 15 seconds. Come on, you're deluded if you think that. That was 15 seconds, please. Don't even think about that. So yeah, he hasn't really proactively grappled since the Rosenstrike fight. And that concerns me because if he's trying to strike with Aspinall, that's probably going to spell disaster because we know Aspinall can take a shot. He took Pavlovich's best shots in the first round, and he's never been KO'd before. Yes, he's got a KO on his record, a KO loss on his record, but that was in the Blades fight from his knee, so that went down as a KO or TKO for injury. But he's never been chinned or anything like that, and I just think he'll be able to take Blades' shots no matter what. And I think he has the way better striking, and we know Blades can't really take a shot in terms of his chin. Yeah, I mean, I just think Aspinall cleans Blades up here. I don't even think you have to worry about getting to the third or fourth round. I think Aspinall finishes Blades in the first 2 rounds. And it clears out. I don't think Blades goes proactively for his wrestling, and if he does, I think Aspinall has the jiu-jitsu to thwart it. I mean, I think it's a wash. I think it's kind of like a lock. It is heavyweight. You know, you never can be wrong, never be sure. But like I said, Aspinall's never been KO'd or anything like that, so I don't think we have to really worry about it on the feet. An injury can happen, like the knee. Yeah, I just think Blades, you know, I feel like he's been pushed by the UFC for so long, and he's just never reached that pinnacle, top of the mountain. He's always gone close and just never been able to do so. So yeah, I think it's pretty simple. I think Aspinall gets the KO or the submission in the first round or two. But if it gets past the third round, or the second round really, I would be, you know, I'd be clenching my my cheeks because you just don't know his cardio. So yeah, I'll keep it short. Aspinall KO submission rounds 1 or 2. Blades has been chinned before, and Aspinall has not. And yeah, simple. And for the main event, we have Leon Edwards versus Belal Muhammad, which, you know, I know a lot of people don't like Belal Muhammad, but I think it actually will be a bit of a fun fight in terms of just the stakes of the division, because I feel like if Belal screws this up, it's over for him. And, you know, a lot of people are hating on Edwards right now because he's really held up the division, and he's talking about going up a weight class after only defending it like once or twice. And it's just, you know, a lot of hatred towards these two fighters, which makes it a bit more interesting, if you know what I mean. So, we'll start off with Belal. He's a forward pressure fighter that has boxing and wrestling, and that's about it. And he has kicks, but they're not the most athletic kicks, and they kind of hit the guard of his opponents more than actually damaging them in terms of the head or anything like that. But yeah, he's a forward pressure fighter, and we saw that in the Burns fight. He has takedowns, you know, the Thompson fight, for example. And he's not the most athletic person, but he just puts things together. And, you know, he's 23-3 for a reason. He's not a bad fighter at all. Now, I say he's a come forward pressure fighter, but that's against fighters who can bully. So he could bully Burns. He wasn't scared of Burns at all. He wasn't scared of Thompson at all. But against fighters that he can't bully, like Edwards in the first fight, or like Lucasz, if you watch that fight, he's actually on the back foot. He's not as pressuring as you might think. And that's a bit concerning in this fight because, you know, we saw that Edwards' first fight against him, when he wasn't getting when he wasn't being able to bully his opponents kind of can tee off in him because he's not the most athletic person. He's not the most, you know, dynamic striker or wrestler. Now, for Edwards, he is a striker, and we've seen it throughout his career. I mean, he's on this win streak that's incredible through his striking and through his kickboxing. But I think people are forgetting that this man has been, you know, he has had his deficiencies. He got absolutely dog-walked by Usman in the first fight, through the wrestling, through the pressure, and just Usman mixing it up on him, and he was beating him in the striking as well before that head kick KO in the last round. Even in the second fight, you know, Usman was having his way with him, and Usman, you know, is known to not have the best of wrestling anymore because his knees are absolutely shot. He's got like no cartilage in his knees, and I think probably Belal Muhammad is probably a bit more of a better wrestler than Usman right now, and I know that's crazy to say, but I do think that. Even in the Covington fight, not a good look for Edwards. I know a lot of people talked bad about Covington in that fight, but Edwards didn't do much in that fight either. And I just think you can't really be saying that Edwards is such a dominating champion lately, because he really hasn't shown it. I think his most dominating performance was against Muhammad, and that was that ended up in a really bad eye poke, which I can't believe people were saying that Muhammad, you know, was talked a bit down upon for pulling off that fight, because his eye was bleeding, swollen, and it was disgusting, really. Well, I think this fight's a lot closer than people think. I don't think Edwards is that good, I don't think Edwards is that dominating anywhere. I think he keeps fights close, and I don't think Muhammad is that bad anywhere either. For a pick, I am going to pick Edwards. I'm going to pick Edwards because I just think he lands the better shots, okay? Now, like I said, I just think if Muhammad can't bully an opponent, he kind of struggles, and we saw that in the Lucasz fight, we saw that in the Edwards fight, and I just don't think Edwards is going to land bully him. You know, we've seen Edwards deal with wrestlers before, you know, like I said, Usman and Colby, and I just think he's got that aura about him that he can't be defeated, and I just think Muhammad is going to have to really just have this pressure for 5 rounds and not get hurt. We've seen him hurt before, you know, Lucasz hurt him and Edwards hurt him, and not get hurt, just pressure for 5 rounds. I don't know if he can do that. I know this breakdown for this last fight's horrible, But it's just really a close fight. I don't think anyone should be too confident on Edwards, and I don't think anyone should be confident on Belal. So yeah, just give me Edwards. Give me him by decision, like always. And yeah, that wraps it up. I mean, I can't give you more than that. Do your own study, do your own tape. These are just to help you out with your predictions. They're not going to be definitive or anything like that. So yeah, that wraps up UFC 304. I feel like I've been talking for hours, which I have been, because these videos get chopped up and edited, so you don't really see how long I've been actually talking for. But yeah, really fun card. 14 fights, insane. I love long cards because it gives you something to look forward to, and it gives you a whole day to just chill out. It's a Sunday for me, so I get to chill out on my Sunday and enjoy the fights. I will have the best bets out Friday, Thursday for America. Make sure you watch it because, like I said, last week we absolutely killed it for UFC Vegas 94, our bets. So yeah, even if we don't do that one predictions, I always make sure to either do well on the bets or the predictions, one way or the other. So you're not gonna have no usefulness from me. If that makes sense. Other than that, enjoy your week. I'll get back to you, like I said, at the end of the week. And yeah, do your own study, do your own tape, enjoy your week, and I'll get back to you later on. Catch you later. Ciao.